Revenge films.
My name is Kevin Smith. I work at a company. I live together with my wife, Sarah. It's been about 2.5 years since we got married, but we don't have any children yet. That's not because we didn't want to have children. When we first got married, we had planned to enjoy our newlywed lives together for about a year, and then we wanted to start trying for a baby. However, my wife had an illness that she was born with, and she was the one that started to say to me,
I feel like I'm still not 100% well and that my body isn't great. I'm worried, so I want you to wait a little bit longer until we have kids.
When she said that to me, I had no choice but to be patient and wait. Even though it was a born illness, it wasn't anything too serious. We spoke to her doctor about it, and they said that as long as she was maintaining her health, it would be more than possible for her to give birth. And so, for over a year after we got married, I was going to have to wait even longer until we could start trying for a baby. But I thought that there was nothing I could do about it. On the other hand, I couldn't help but to feel suspicions about my wife's attitude. In reality, in the last year and a half, her affection and feelings toward me had clearly drastically fallen. But because of what she was saying about her health, I figured that it was just being influenced by her health at the time. Then one day, while I was at the office in the middle of the workday, I got a phone call from my wife.
I went out to do the groceries and then I started feeling unwell. So when I stopped by the hospital, they said I needed to be hospitalized. That's why I'm asking if you can bring me my pajamas and other necessary items to the hospital for me.
I explained the situation to my company and I rushed to leave. I left work early that day and I went home. I went to do as she said and went looking for the necessary items that she asked for. However, I was having a hard time finding the pajamas. Normally, whenever my wife was going to have to spend a few days in the hospital, we would know about it in advance. Because of that, she was always the one to take them out herself. I didn't know where her pajamas were, so I opened up her closet, and there I found her pajamas. They were old, and she had always been wearing them. She probably stopped using that pair and had to put them away. Huh? Wait, but what are all of these letters? In the back of my wife's closet, I found a stack of mysterious letters. They were placed away as if she was trying to hide them. What are these letters? Come on! Why would they be tucked away in a place like this? It seemed unnatural. However, I didn't think it was right to open up those letters that weren't mine and tucked away, so I decided not to touch them. I simply grabbed the items that she had asked for and I ran to the hospital to give them to my wife. The moment my wife saw those old pajamas, she was shocked and started sweating.
What? The fact that you pulled out these pajamas, does that mean that you went into my closet and looked inside?
Yeah, that's right. I found them there.
I can't believe that you opened up a woman's closet without her permission. You're the worst. Surely you didn't look inside and snoop around, did you?
It was rare for my wife to raise her voice like this in such an angry way. I tried to calmly reply, "No, of course I wouldn't snoop around in your closet."
Right. I see.
My wife was clearly flustered. Why is she panicking and so flustered? Oh, wait a minute. Could it have something to do with those letters? If there's something about that stack of letters. After I dropped off the items and I got home from the hospital, I couldn't help but be bothered by the stack of letters I saw in my wife's closet. If my wife hadn't seemed so panicked when I brought those pajamas, I don't think I would have thought twice to open up those letters. But I went into the closet and I grabbed the stack. There were approximately 40 envelopes there. If nothing seems suspicious about these and they seem like normal letters, I'm going to immediately stop reading them and put them back where they belong. I noticed that all the letters were international and they were all sent by the same person. I looked at the name, and it belonged to a Japanese man. I could even see the date of the letters, and there were some that dated back about a year after we got married, up until pretty recently. I noticed that the exchanges began around the time that my wife had started using her health as a reason to extend wanting a baby. And then, at that moment, I remembered that right around that time, my wife and I had gotten into a big argument.
You're the one that lost an invoice that was addressed to me. I don't want you to touch the mail ever again. I don't trust you with it anymore.
I didn't know what she was talking about, and I didn't remember doing anything of that sort. But my wife was yelling at me. I knew that if I were to anger her too much, it would be bad for her health. So, at that time, I simply apologized and backed down. And then I promised her that I would never go out to get the mail ever again. That argument was when those letters seemed to start. Now that I think about it, she probably made up that incident, and it was her plan to make sure that I would never take notice of these letters that were being sent to our house. When I opened up one of the envelopes, just as I expected, they were all letters from a man that she was having an affair with. They all said similar things like, "I love you," or "let's run away and get married." Amongst them, I also saw some words that said, "I know I said this to you in a message, but," which made me quickly realize that they were probably having communication that wasn't only through these written letters. As I continued to read the letters, I also found out that every single time this man was returning into the country, they would meet up secretly and go to hotels together. He had even written poems about his thoughts when they made love together in the bed, and it made me want to throw up. With this, I was certain that my wife was having an affair. I started to feel stupid that I vowed to support my sickly wife for the rest of my life and devote my life to her. I was doing everything around the house because I didn't want her to deal with the stress of doing the chores. But because that meant she had more time on her hands, she was having an affair. And not only that, but it was clear that my wife and this man were treating me like I was the one that was in the way. She was saying that she was apart from this man that she was in love with, and she was stuck living with her husband that she didn't even like, and that she was living a difficult, everyday life. When I found out that that's how the two of them were thinking of me, I could feel the anger boiling inside of me. While my wife was hospitalized, I didn't go to visit her once. And after 2 days of not visiting her, I received a phone call from Sarah.
Hey, Kevin, why haven't you come and checked on me in the hospital? There are a number of things that I want to discuss with you that I need to talk to you about in detail. Why haven't you come?
Wait, did I say that I would come visit you in the hospital? I don't recall that.
Excuse me? Your wife is hospitalized right now and can't come home. Isn't it a given that you should be coming every day to visit me here? And first of all, every time that I've been hospitalized up until now, you would come and visit me every day anyway. There are things I want you to buy for me, so hurry up and get here.
But the hospital is near your parents' house. Why don't you ask your parents? And then I hung up the phone. In the years that I've known her, I had never once taken this kind of attitude with her, and that must have been shocking to her. About an hour passed by, and I received a message from my wife that seemed careful and cautious, completely different from her tone on the phone.
Was I a little bit too harsh when I was talking to you? I'm sorry about that. You can come whenever, now or later, but please come.
I decided to ignore that message, and I decided that I was going to get a divorce. It seems that my wife was trying to keep hiding her affair with this other man and continue on with her married life with me. I'm not gonna let them get away with this. I'm definitely gonna make them pay a settlement fee. From there, I hired a detective agency, and I also went to discuss the situation with a lawyer. According to the letters that I found, the man was on an overseas assignment for business, but that was about to finish, and he would be coming back into the country pretty soon. Around that time, my wife was released from the hospital. Together with her parents, they stormed into our home, and the three of them were furious, asking me why I didn't come to visit my wife and take care of her. I apologized. I had no choice because until I had concrete evidence of the affair in my hands, it would be bad for my wife to suspect that I was onto her. So I had to play along.
You know that I was born with this illness, don't you? You should be taking better care of me. Next time, if you don't come visit me, I'm not going to accept that.
I had no feelings for my wife anymore. Perhaps because of that, I noticed that my wife was using that illness as an excuse to throw me around. I don't think she was like this before we got married. Then, the man came back to the country. My wife was going to multiple hotels with this man, and we got plenty of evidence. Not long after that, suddenly, my wife handed me divorce papers. This is coming out of nowhere. What's the reason? I pretended not to know anything, and I asked her.
The reason is what happened when I was hospitalized before. You didn't come to visit me, did you? And with that, all of my feelings towards you instantly disappeared. This is all your fault.
Is that so? So what are you planning on doing after the divorce?
I haven't decided anything yet. I'm gonna find somebody better now.
It seems that she was planning on acting dumb and getting a divorce without paying any settlement fee. You're gonna find somebody now? But you already have a boyfriend. What's wrong with him?
What? How do you know about that?
I showed all evidence of the affair, and I made her promise to bring him and have a discussion together. On the day of, my wife and I, and her boyfriend, and the lawyer, the four of us, gathered. The man had a sharp look on his face and said, "Sarah and I are in love, so please acknowledge our relationship." I understand the situation. However, you're already dating, aren't you? That means that you're having an affair. That's why. It's not like we can just break up. The man then cut me off. "Obviously, I know that. So please take this. Here's the settlement fee." The man threw an envelope onto the table. The envelope was clearly super thin. Without thinking, I asked, how much is in this envelope?" "Settlement fee, $1,000. I coughed, and I could feel tears forming by my eyes. My wife and her boyfriend seemed to misunderstand that I started crying because I was so sad about the divorce. "So please, just accept the $1,000.
That's right. I also ended up lying a number of times, so don't hesitate. Just take it.
One after another, they said that to me. We're getting a divorce. However, I'm not going to accept this $1,000. And I rejected it. When my wife and her boyfriend left, I laughed out loud. Do those two seriously think that they can get out of this with just $1,000 settlement fee? The lawyer and I couldn't help but to burst out laughing. And so, I got a divorce. And I collected a settlement fee of $30,000 each from my ex-wife and her boyfriend. The record, as for the separation of assets after consideration of her treatment fees, they ended up being nothing. She then called me saying that the settlement fee was too high and she was shocked, but I laughed again. Sorry to shock you. You thought that you could settle it with $1,000, but you have to pay $60,000. Of course you'd be shocked. Because my ex-wife and her boyfriend were going to need $59,000 more than they thought, I heard that they got into a huge fight. In the end, because of those arguments, apparently they broke up. My ex-wife is living with her parents, working part-time jobs, and trying to pay back her debt every day.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.